welcome to episode 64 of my Doll's House Diary. Now in today's episode I'm going to be in the kitchen and making food packets to fill the little wall cupboard, and then I'm going to be attaching it into place. Now please, if you enjoy my videos, don't forget to subscribe, it's completely free, and do hit the like button as well, which will help others to find my videos. I'd like to take this opportunity to say a huge thank you to each and every one of my patrons who have made this video possible. And if you'd like to become a patron, or one of my little bits as I call them, then please head over to patreon.com/littlebitsandpiecesbyjulie, where you'll find all the details. And over there you'll get 3 uninterrupted videos every month. Okay, so let's get started in the kitchen. So this is the cupboard that I want to complete, and this is a wall cupboard which sits above the long side unit in the kitchen. So I've got quite a few bits and pieces in there on the left hand side, but just a little bit of space left in the corner of each shelf. So I want to add some more tins at the bottom there, and then just some more bits and pieces in there. And I've actually got some nice coffee pod boxes that will fit nicely in there. But then this side is completely empty. So I did start making a few bits for it, but I'm going to need a lot more to actually fill that cupboard. And I do want them to look really nice and full and jam-packed. So I've got here a sheet of labels, and these are all things that I've had in my own kitchen cupboard. So I've scanned them in and then downscaled them, and I've just sort of done duplicates on each thing, and that's just if you sort of make a mistake, you've got another one to work with. And I'm not going to go into too much detail on creating your own labels, as I've actually done a video here on the channel, a quite extensive video called Tins, Packets and Jars, and I'll link to that at the end of this episode. So there probably isn't going to be enough here to fill the cupboard. Well, there definitely isn't, but at least once I've got these made up, I can pop them in and then just see how much more I am going to need. Okay, so I'm just going to begin by just cutting these out roughly, and then I'll cut around each one and cut all of the flaps so that I can actually fold those. And I'm actually going to be cutting pieces of wood to put these around. And that's just something that I like to do because I think you get a nice square solid looking box. But if you want to just make them up by folding them, then obviously you can do it that way. So once I've cut it out and cut the little flaps, I like just to fold around a rule, just so that you get those nice sharp folds. And go along each of the box edges. And then also along the top of the box, so that you get the little flaps to fold in nice and neatly as well. I couldn't quite see where the line was then. Okay, so for the inside of the pack then, I'm using this piece of 5mm thick balsa, and I cut that just using my normal craft knife because it's a nice soft wood, it's really easy to cut through. And then I'm just basically going to glue my packet around the balsa. When you do that, make sure that your joins are always going to be at the back of the packet. It just gives you a neater packet then. So I'm actually just going to apply the glue directly to the back of the label. Like that. I'm just going to slot that on onto that side flap. Make sure it's straight, and then fold around. Again, making sure that I've always got the joins at the back of the box. So always do the front flap last. There's our first little box. Okay, so I'm now moving on to some tins. So I've cut out my labels, and then I've cut a piece of dowel, and this is 6mm, but obviously wrap your label around and see how wide you need your dowel to be. And I've cut it 1mm higher than my label so that I can have a little bit of lid showing at each end. And then I'm just actually starting by just sanding around the top and bottom of each piece, just to get a little bit of a curve on there, but also to get rid of the fluffy ends from my mitre block and saw. And then to actually colour the lids, you can either use paint, and a nice silver metallic paint looks really nice, but this time I'm going to be using this silver permanent ink pen. And you just want to put it on the sort of flat edge of the top, a little bit fluffy there, and then just a little way around the sort of rim at the top and bottom. Okay, so I've added the silver to each of the tins, and again I'm just going to apply glue to the label, glue it round. Simple as that, but really effective, I think. Now I have downloaded a few labels as well, so if you're unable to print them, you can find them on places like Pinterest and things like that, but you do just have to be careful with the sizes. A few that I've downloaded as 12th scale have actually turned out to be like 6th scale, or just not quite the right size. So by cutting that extra millimetre there, you just get a little bit of that silver then showing at the top and bottom of your label, which looks really good. So I've got quite a few bits made now to be going on with, so I'm actually going to start putting them into place in the cupboard, and then if I do need anything else I can add that at a later date. But I've got here a really good variety of packets of all shapes and sizes, things in tubes, I've got a little bottle there, some smaller tins, and that's what you want to aim for, to give, you know, lots of different heights and a really good sort of selection of different foods and packets. Okay, so let's start putting these into place. So I've finished that first side now, so I've just put a little pack of biscuits on top of the tea, the icing sugar and cheddars over there, and then those 3 smaller tins on top of the soup tins that were already there, and I think that actually looks really good now. So I'm now going to move over to this other side. So I'm just going to start with some tins on this side as well. Just make sure I'm in the right place there. Yeah, you don't want to hinder your door. And though I like it to look fairly sort of higgledy-piggledy and, you know, sort of overfilled, I am keeping it sort of neat with sort of packets facing forwards and things like that, but it's entirely up to you how you do yours. I've also tried to keep it in some sort of order, sort of like tea, coffee and biscuit things together, but then on this side, just because I've got you know, the real size packets in my own cupboards, I'm going to have some biscuits and coffee and things over here as well. And then I've got another couple of tins here, which I'm actually going to just stand on top of those just to add that height, sort of stagger them a bit like that. Okay, so I've got the top shelf done there, and I'm just coming back down onto the bottom now and using these large sort of coffee pod boxes to fill out that corner. I'm just going to put that one in there at a slight sort of angle. So it doesn't look quite so uniform. And then I've got a bit of space up there on top of the Weetabix where I could stand. I've got another couple of packs of these biscuits here, but I'll see what I need for the bottom. You know, and have a play around as well as you go along. You might just want to sort of stand things in and see where they look good. I might have those there. And those there. And then I've got some loose little biscuits there as well, just to stand at the front as though they've sort of come out of another packet. So let's bring those out again. And there is my full cupboard. So I actually duplicated just a couple of the items, things that I already had in that first cupboard, and a few labels that I'd actually saved. So I did another Ryvitas packet there, another packet of cheese biscuits, but actually they're hidden at the back in that side, so that worked out quite well. I've got another pack of cheddars there, but I've just put it at a slight angle over there. And it was really just to sort of fill it all out. And I'm really pleased with how that looks. I think it looks nice and full, and there's a really good variety in there as well of packages and shapes. Okay, so I'm going to close the doors up now and then actually go and glue this into place in the kitchen. Okay, so I've cleared all the other bits of furniture out of the kitchen just to make it easier to get into. And I've been trying to sort of have a play around with the tripod so that I can get the camera up and attach the shelf at the same time. But I'm not going to be able to get in. I can't sort of reach in around the camera. So I'll put it into position and then I'll show you what it looks like. But I just want to show you how I'm going to measure it and line it up so that it's sitting straight. So I want the bottom of the cupboard to be level with this bottom shelf like that, and I think that's a really nice position. And I think as well, if you've got something that you can actually line it up with, then that's the best thing to do, because it just makes everything sort of run on really nicely and gives you those sort of nice clean lines. So what I then did was line that up against that shelf and then measure from the top of the cupboard to the bottom of one of the beams there, and that measures 34 millimeters. So if I just pop that down again. So I've cut myself just a strip of sheet wood measuring 34 millimeters deep, and what I'll do is I'll line that up there underneath the beams, and then put a little bit of masking tape on, some low tack masking tape, apply the glue to the back of the cupboard, and then I can just push that up against that line, and then I know I'm getting it straight all the way along. And even, I mean, I think I'm pretty good at measuring and getting things straight by eye, but even sometimes it might look straight from a particular angle, but then when you look again, it's not quite as straight as you thought. So it is always best to use a line or a measurement when you're doing these sorts of things, especially if you're gluing it into place, because obviously once the glue's dried, it's more or less permanent, and you'd cause a bit of damage then trying to get it off again. And there is the cupboard in place. I'm really pleased that that is finally now filled and glued into place, because that's sort of been loose in the doll's house for far too long. I think that looks really good. I've still got a fair bit to do in the kitchen. The main sort of furniture and everything is complete, as you can see, but I've got a bit of displaying to do, and I'm really looking forward to doing that. And obviously I'll be sharing whatever I do in there here on YouTube. Now, I just want to say, with the food packets, I'm really not organised with all of my JPEGs and PDFs and everything. So I've just got one-off labels in different files and everything on my computer. So a lot of people ask me if I could just do up a sheet, but it's just that I haven't really got time to sit and put them all onto one sheet. And I just sort of go into the computer and I've just been printing them off willy-nilly, saving them in different places. So I really do need to get organised with all of them. So I don't actually have just a single sheet available of those. But what I would say to sort of build up a really nice collection of food packets is whenever you finish something within your kitchen, and whether that's a cardboard packet or a tin label or something like that, or even a jar. I recently just really sort of carefully peeled the label off of a jar of pickles. Just keep hold of them all. If you've got a scanner, then scan them in and scale them down to 1/12. And I've got a video here on the channel showing you how to do that, which I think I mentioned earlier. tins, packets and jars, so do have a look at that, and I go into a lot of detail there about scanning them in and downsizing them using a program called Adobe Photoshop, but there are obviously other programs that you can use to do things like that, and you might even be able to do it in your normal sort of photo editing program. But I hope that helps, and I hope you've enjoyed this episode. But that's it for today's episode, and I'll be back with you as soon as I can with another Doll's House Diary. But do keep a lookout for the Little Harbour Homewares 1/12 scale shop project that I'm sharing here every Friday. And that was originally a Patreon series, so if you wanted to binge watch it, you can come over and join me on Patreon. But that's it for today, so I'm going to let you go, and I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye.